Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Semi Pro. I'm Dalton Barrett, and in the studio with me, I have my very good friends Daniel Savage and Josh Clements, and today we're talking about Mel Gibson. I mean, we're actually talking about Daddy's Home 2, but there's not really much else to talk about outside of the fact that Mel Gibson is in this movie. Also, just because he's the best part of the movie.
John Cena.
John Cena is
I
in
like
this movie.
John Cena. He was in this movie. That was fun. I like John Cena. He's funny.
I enjoyed
He was in
John Cena.
He was in
I even-
Peacemaker.
I even enjoyed Marky Mark in this movie.
Honestly, I think I enjoyed genuinely everyone in this movie.
Especially
I don't
that
think there was a single person or character that I didn't like.
I wasn't a huge fan of Marky Mark's wife.
Yeah, but
I didn't like her. I didn't like her at first, but then she had a nice little
She did have a moment.
character arc that wasn't
No,
a character arc. She was just always nice. I don't
She
know.
was just nice
She
the
was
whole
also-
time.
Right.
She kind of like she didn't.
She
have
just had
much.
social anxiety, I think.
She didn't. Well, I mean, she wasn't like a great character or anything, but she wasn't an awful character.
Right.
No. Well, you're just supposed to hate her throughout the movie, but then at the end, you're supposed to like her. I liked the two standout characters from this movie are Mel Gibson and
Yes.
Mark Wahlberg's daughter, who is playing Mel Gibson.
Correct.
Because it's incredible to see this 8-year-old girl, 10-year-old girl, just doing her best Mel Gibson impression.
It's a shame that Mel Gibson in real life is, an awful person. I
The
think.
I was
worst.
about to say.
In this movie, he is fantastic.
Yeah, this movie made me think that I love Mel Gibson when in fact I hate Mel Gibson.
I was about to say we should address the elephant in the room, but it's been well addressed, so we're good.
Right.
Mel Gibson is a horrible person. And we're going
Great,
to talk
Daddy's
about
Home 2 is great, and I love it.
We're going to talk about Mel Gibson very positively because I don't remember his character's name. And as we're breaking down the plot, I'm just going to
it
be
was,
calling him Mel Gibson.
It was Kurt.
Yeah, Kurt, that's what it was.
It was Kurt. That's my father-in-law's name.
Your father-in-law was Mel
Gibson.
But as we do the breakdown, we're probably just going to be calling everybody by their real names as opposed to by their names in the movie.
Right. Except for the children who will just be referred to as little girl, little boy, and slightly older little girl.
And Dylan. I did get
Right,
Dylan.
yes.
Finally got Dylan. But
Wake
yeah,
up, babe. New Dylan dropped.
but throughout this movie was picked as like well, we got to have 4 of these Mark Wahlberg movies. What are some bad Mark Wahlberg movies? And this was on like every list of bad Mark Wahlberg's worst movies. I just don't get it.
It definitely shouldn't be,
I think this is
great.
this is one of Mark Wahlberg's best movies, if you ask me.
I mean, it was
honestly,
definitely
yeah.
it was definitely better than Transformers.
It's definitely the best Mark Wahlberg movie we've watched for the Marky Mark sweep.
And it probably is the best one that we
Right.
will watch for the sweep. It's also the best movie starring both Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson.
That is true.
That is certainly true.
I don't know that anyone will disagree with that.
So yeah, plot breakdown. What happens in Daddy's Home 2? Daddy comes
Daddy's
home.
Daddy
home.
is home.
Correct. We do open in this movie with Daddy already being home, as opposed to coming home. But Granddaddy is coming home in this movie. So we open with a parenting montage of Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell, sort of piggybacking off of the back of the first movie, which I haven't seen in probably 15, 20 years or so.
I just
Right.
haven't seen
Since
it.
well before it came out, which is a very impressive feat.
I can see through time. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell, they're parenting and they're doing a pretty good job at it. They got this nice bromance going on, despite the fact that Mark Wahlberg appears to be playing like a guy fresh out of prison, and Will Ferrell is the dad you see at school when you're picking up your kids, who gets there before you and takes your spot in line. Like he's the competition dad. Which
My favorite my favorite point of it all was when Will Ferrell dropped off a coffee for Marky Mark, and they had a nice moment. And then Marky Mark tells someone behind him he's going to break his teeth.
Yeah, it's pretty
Mhm.
great. I
I
wish
like
there were
it
some
a
more
lot.
moments like that. And it was
They
hot
kind
cocoa,
of
not
they kind
coffee.
of they kind of give that to John Cena a little bit, like the nice to his family sort of thing, but then just awful to everyone else.
A
Is
little
he
bit, but
though?
Johnson
Because
was
Johnson is horrible to his family.
No, he likes his
No, he
daughter,
likes his daughter.
ex-wife.
That's it.
Yeah, but he like snatches her and takes her away at Christmas.
Well, yeah, that's because well, we get to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
We'll get that.
So it's a hot cocoa, by the way, that Will Ferrell brings him, and
Uh,
that is what
a hot
happens.
cocoa.
Mark Wahlberg just like he threatens to snap a guy's or no, what does he say? He says, if
Says,
you keep
like,
honking
I'll
like
punch
that,
you in the teeth.
yeah, you'll need a new set of teeth. So Mark Wahlberg is about to turn this guy into a hashtag, and Will Ferrell tells him to calm down, and then backs into his car. That's how that happens. They go to a Christmas play together that Mark Wahlberg's daughter, who Will Ferrell is the stepfather of, she is singing in this Christmas play, and one of the things they have to do is they have to tell like a story or something, like share what they love about Christmas. And this girl's like, well, I really like presents, but I'm sad because my family is split up. I have to do 2 Christmases. Which I've never heard that from a single divorced kid ever.
Right.
They're always really excited that they get to do 2 Christmases. But it's fine. So they go home, and Will Ferrell has the idea to do a joint Christmas together, but Mark Wahlberg takes credit for it because he's horrible to his friends.
Fine now.
No, well, he came up with the idea together Christmas.
Right.
Right.
He does name it. So they decide to come together to do one Christmas together so that the children can celebrate in one spot as opposed to having to go both. Will Ferrell's father was already planning on coming for Christmas, which is not really set up. We find that out after we find out Mark Wahlberg's father is coming, because he gets a phone call from his dad who says, hey, I'm coming over for Christmas. And then they go to the airport to pick up both of their dads at the same time, and Mel Gibson enters as if he's like a Greek god. like the sun changes colors for this guy. The music starts blaring. Every woman in the airport is staring at this man, and it's just Mel Gibson. It's so incredible.
That was actually before Mel Gibson signed on to be in the movie. That's just him arriving in the country.
They were filming at an actual airport. Mel Gibson got off the plane, and they're like, we need him for this movie. And they kicked out whoever it was who was going to play Mark Wahlberg's dad just to get Mel Gibson.
It was Sully. They got Sully.
So they leave the airport, they go home, or no, before that, Will Ferrell's dad gets there. He's played by John Lithgow, and then he just kisses Will Ferrell on the lips.
Yeah.
just passionately makes out. Sorry, I thought one of you guys was going to talk, so I took a sip of coffee.
No, I think it's good. I think it's good to just let people, linger on that.
Yeah. He kissed his dad right on the mouth twice. Mel Gibson makes fun of them, of John Lithgow and Will Ferrell, and he starts kind of just like planting the seed in his son's head that Will Ferrell is a weird guy, and he should make fun of him instead of.
He is kind of right.
Yeah, no, he's not wrong. But they're
like Will
best
Ferrell
friends.
is a nice guy, but he's weird nice, not nice, just kind of. He's a very odd fella.
Weird nice,
autistic.
Possibly. I feel like most movie characters come off as autistic.
You're right. It may just be because we are all autistic.
Remember when George Lucas made Anakin Skywalker autistic?
I do.
So they go home, and Mel Gibson discusses parenting with Mark Wahlberg, and he's just talking about how, like, hey, this Will Ferrell guy, he's going to make your kids unmasculine. He's going to emasculate your son. And then it pans out, and Will Ferrell's sitting on the couch next to them. That was a pretty funny little bit. I was a big fan of that. So Mel Gibson decides he wants to step in to be the fun grandpa because the grandkids don't like him whatsoever. So he books an Airbnb for Christmas. And then they drive 5 hours up to an Airbnb so they can all be together in one house for Christmas. Now,
And at some point, the grandkids started calling Mel Gibson El Padre. I don't know when that happened, but it happened at some point.
it did happen at some point. I have no idea
It
when.
happens. It happens right after he books the Airbnb, because his whole thing is that he's just Grandpa Kurt and John Lithgow is Pop or something.
Right.
Yes.
But where did El Padre come from?
Right. That's more the
Kurt
question.
Russell is not a Hispanic man. By Kurt Russell, I mean Mel Gibson.
Kurt Russell
I mean,
would
both
have
are true.
been in this role. Kurt Russell would have been quite good, honestly.
Maybe that's who they
Right,
got
but
before
not
Mel
as good
Gibson
as-
stumbled on
Before Mel
set.
Gibson. Yeah.
Right, Mel Gibson is. This is the role Mel Gibson was born to play.
Mel Gibson was hijacking a plane to fly it over Israel. And upon doing so, he had to land at the airport that they were filming at. And when he landed, he walked out and all the women just started looking at him and the camera panned and the sun changed. And so they decided to kick Kurt Russell off the set.
Right.
And then
So
they tried handing a script to Mel Gibson, and he
He said,
threw
"No,
it out.
I don't need that."
I would borderline guarantee you Mel Gibson did not have a script. He had a basic plot outline and he walked into scenes, heard them talk, and gave his rebuttal. And he's having a freaking blast doing it too. Like there are all these scenes of him like laughing at other people's misfortune. Will Ferrell will get hurt, and it'll just cut to Mel Gibson's reaction shot, and he's just laughing. It's hilarious.
That's like half the movie is that someone else is in danger.
Right.
Then
Someone else is getting hurt, and other character is laughing.
There's a part where Will Ferrell creates a weapon of mass destruction, nearly kills like everyone else, and Mel Gibson's it cuts to Mel Gibson.
He's just like recording it.
He's taping it on
He's on his phone recording it and laughing.
He's filming it for World Star.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of everything Mel Gibson does in this movie. Every single thing that he does. So they get to the Airbnb after the car ride, and Dylan, who is Mark Wahlberg's son, notices his actual son notices this girl next door. This little girl who is in the Airbnb next door, and then that happens, and the parents, both of the dads, try to figure out the talk and who's going to have the talk and how they're going to give him the talk. And Mark Wahlberg wants to teach him how to score, and Will Ferrell wants to use some flashcards to explain his anatomy.
And he wants to teach him how to live in the friend zone.
Yeah, but
Right.
that doesn't happen until later. But
No, he
yes,
says that.
no, he didn't say
He
that
says
until
it-
they're at the Christmas tree farm.
No. That's where this goes down.
No,
That's-
this is
that's-
immediately when they get to the Airbnb.
Yeah. When
Oh, no,
when
no.
his stepsister, what's her name, Adrian, is making fun of him.
Correct.
Adriana.
Correct.
Right. Mark Wahlberg's stepdaughter.
Correct.
John Cena's daughter. the
John
one's very
Cena's
scary.
daughter. Yes.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
the family has a good old Christmas time together, and there's some Christmasing montages. Or it's not a montage. They're all like playing games in the Airbnb, and they're playing the pools, and somebody puts on a song on the jukebox, and it gives Marky
It was
Mark like
Dylan.
flashbacks.
Dylan did that.
Dylan, yeah, he puts on a song on the flashback or a jukebox. Mark
Yeah.
Wahlberg starts to lose his mind with his PTSD flashbacks about his dad sleeping with random women throughout his childhood. So it turns out that every major event in Mark Wahlberg's life, his dad has left to go sleep with a woman during. And he's worried that his dad's gonna ruin Christmas. So he talks to Will Ferrell about it a little bit, and Will Ferrell's like, "Look, you got to suck it up and he's family. Like, he needs to be here." And Mark Wahlberg says, "Fine." There's a little bit in there where Will Ferrell tells him to look in a mirror. Yeah.
I liked that bit a lot.
It was a good little bit. So then they go sledding. The whole family goes sledding together as they're having their good Christmas time. Will Ferrell falls off of his sled, and his baby goes sledding all by himself. Will Ferrell has a baby in this. He doesn't really
Yes.
play much of a part.
He
Well,
has
yeah.
a baby with Velma.
Correct. Clint Barton's
Right.
wife.
Right. Mockingbird.
So the baby goes sledding alone. Oscar Isaac shows up at a gun store because Mel
does
Gibson takes him
not.
to a gun store.
Straight up doesn't.
A man with a beard and long hair turns up.
A very white man
Very
with a
white.
beard.
Oscar Isaac shows up at a gun store.
Okay.
And let's see. So Mel Gibson is trying to get Dylan, the son, to buy a gun so that he can take him hunting. Will Ferrell's like, no, we're not a gun family. But so they leave after Oscar Isaac is going to sell them a gun, and they start decorating the Airbnb for Christmas. This is not the moment the thing happened. Maybe it is is this the moment the thing happens?
It might be.
No, I don't think. Maybe it is. They're decorating the Airbnb for Christmas.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think it's like right after.
Okay,
Then
so
he's on the snowblower and he gets into like an argument with his wife, Will Ferrell.
Yeah,
does.
no, his wife goes, "Hey, don't you think your parents are getting divorced?" And
Right.
he says, "No, they love each other more than I love you."
Right. Yeah.
And then she storms off.
He follows her. Lets go of snowblower. It goes and starts sucking up all the lights, and then chaos.
And chaos just absolutely ensues. It's some beautiful, beautiful early 2000s slapstick in the year 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will Ferrell, he falls and he lands on the ground, and then the snowblower crushes the car. And all throughout this thing, it just keeps cutting back to Mel Gibson the whole time. And the entire time, Mel Gibson is just losing it. He's laughing and he's taping.
It was Mel Gibson and Marky Mark's new wife.
Yes, they were.
She was laughing too.
Yeah, I'm really surprised there wasn't a bit where Mel Gibson tried to sleep with Marky Mark's new wife.
No, he's respectful.
I think that would have made him a little too unlikable.
Yeah, but it
A
would
little
have
too
made
unredeemable.
They ride the line in this of like, just he's just enough of a prick that you don't like him, but
not enough that he's Mel Gibson in real life.
right.
Not enough that he's Mel Gibson hateable.
Right.
I don't know. I think the interesting thing about Gibson in this movie is he's literally just playing himself.
He's playing a more morally upright version of himself.
Right. At least he has compassion at the end of the movie. So we cut now to the middle of the night. Mel Gibson storms into John Lithgow's room, just sweating. And this is the dad's thermostat bit. Turns out John Cena's daughter has been turning the thermostat up to 85, which is absolutely insane because she likes to sleep with the window open. And all of the good dads collectively are upset about the thermostat being turned up. Mark Wahlberg doesn't really seem to care. Like, he does care, but he doesn't know how to bring the hammer down on this girl. And all of the dads are wearing the same clothes except for Mark Wahlberg because he's the outsider.
White shirts and boxers.
Yeah, they're all dressed the same except for Mark Wahlberg, who's in a gray shirt and pajama
like
pants.
Sweatpants or something. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a nice little visual symbolism. What it means is that Mark Wahlberg, as a dad, is an outsider, despite the fact that he's really not. He's more of a dad than Mel Gibson was. But it's fine because that's the point they were trying to make. Maybe it's visual symbolism, maybe it's not. Maybe
that's just what he was wearing.
What they should have done is they should have had John Lithgow and Will Ferrell in white shirts, Mel Gibson in a black one, and a Marky Mark in a grey to symbolize that he's moving away from Mel Gibson to Will Ferrell.
And then at the end of the movie, Mark Wahlberg gets a gift from Will Ferrell, and he opens up the present, and it's a white T-shirt and a pair of boxers.
We should have written this movie.
Will Ferrell says, "Look, what's Mark Wahlberg's name in this movie?"
I don't know.
Dusty.
Dave, maybe? Dusty, yeah.
I thought Will Ferrell was Dusty.
No. Dusty is the cool sounding name, so that's obviously not Will Ferrell.
You're right.
I don't know what Will
Brad.
Ferrell's name is.
He's Brad.
Yeah, Brad.
Yeah. So Brad gives
Sounds like
Dusty
Dad.
this present. Dusty opens it. It's a white T-shirt and a pair of boxers. And then Brad says, "Dusty, now Daddy's home." And then that's it. Roll credits. End of the movie. So the dads are upset about the thermostat. It's a little bit that they do, and it's pretty funny. I really enjoy it.
I think that was funny. I think.
Yeah. Then Dylan does. Now we're at the Christmas tree farm. Dylan does not want to talk to his dad about girls, and so he instead chooses to talk to Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell has this talk with him. This is when he tells him to ride the friend zone. Like, just ride out the friend zone, and you'll be fine. Eventually, you'll land one. It's kind of like what he says.
It's trial and error.
Right, trial and error. And so Mark Wahlberg overhears this. He gets really upset. He comes in and he starts giving the talk. And I think Mel Gibson at one point like tries to convince this kid to sexually assault a girl.
Right. Well, I mean, he does. He does convince him, but we will get to that.
Right, we'll get to that later. And so he gets nervous. Dylan gets nervous, turns and runs away, and says that he likes Will Ferrell's advice better. Then Mel Gibson convinces Marky Mark to convince Will Ferrell to steal a Christmas tree from the woods instead of buying one. And so they go to steal this Christmas tree, and Will Ferrell cuts down a cell phone tower instead. And Will Ferrell dies.
Will Ferrell gets killed, and he also causes the 5G infection.
Right. So he cuts down the cell phone tower. I have in this Mel Gibson makes it sad, and I don't know why. I think he brings up like something about his childhood.
And then, like, sad piano music played.
Oh yeah, I remember what he
said.
He said, Mark Wahlberg said,
no, true.
Yeah, go, just inviting yourself to Christmas. You haven't shown up in
said,
years.
I do it because you never invited me.
Yeah. He said,
which that'd work, but he's also the worst. He's Mel Gibson, so I see Marky Mark's point here.
Right. So John Lithgow, they get the Christmas tree set up, and then Velma from Scooby-Doo she finally says, "Hey, Will Ferrell, where's your dad? We've been back for hours now." And so they go to the woods to find him, and he's being attacked by a pack of wolves face down in the snow.
Right. The wolves were very cute and were doing the dog like pushing with their head and rolling over thing. I thought that was cute and quirky. I liked that.
It was. I don't think they were actual wolves.
Right. They were probably like huskies mixed with wolves that a lot of people have.
Yeah, they were small too. So John Lithgow was in no legitimate danger.
Right.
Then they go back.
No John Lithgows were hurt over the course of this film.
Right. They go back home and they argue about the Christmas tree some more. John Lithgow snaps on everybody for not having a fun Christmas. Mark Wahlberg.
That was pretty justifiable snap on John Lithgow's part.
I will say so. Yeah. Had it been Mel Gibson.
It was a very like white suburban dad snap too.
Correct.
Right.
He just said have fun.
He said damn it, which is about the worst he gets.
Right.
John Lithgow nails that role, the suburban dad. Mark Wahlberg
he
finally
really did play it in How I Met Your Mother.
And
Third Rock
the
from
Bigfoot,
the Sun.
the Bigfoot movie. And the Bigfoot movie.
I forgot John Lithgow was in How I Met Your Mother. Who did John Lithgow play in How I Met Your Mother?
He's Barney's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
They find a Bigfoot and they name him Harry because he's hairy.
Right,
and
Harry and the Hendersons.
Right.
What
else happens in this movie?
Back to the movie. John Cena's daughter turns the air back up. Mark Wahlberg convinces her to turn it down 3 degrees.
No, he got 4. He went from 85 to 81.
Yeah, you're right. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell argue about the tree some more, and Mark Wahlberg makes Will Ferrell spill hot chocolate all over himself.
Wait, he thinks it's makeup cocoa.
Yeah, but it was actually hot cocoa for his dad. Not for him. And he gets upset. They argue about the Christmas tree some more. They agree to split the money, and then they all go bowling together. And this is, I think, the point in the movie where it kind of starts to go off the rails, which is a benefit to this movie. Like, everything up to this point has been fine. Mel Gibson was a little off the rails, which made it funny because he's just playing Mel Gibson. But after the bowling scene is a linchpin for this movie to turn into what it is to become. I said before I hit play when we were watching this, I said everything changes after we watch Daddy's Home 2. And you guys didn't believe me, but turns out I was right. I didn't even think I believed you. But here we are. It's time. They go bowling. Mark Wahlberg is just absolutely cracked at bowling. I mean, he throws like strikes without looking. So is Mel Gibson.
So does Mel Gibson. He's also cracked.
But Dylan, the son, is not cracked at bowling. And he uses the
kitty rails.
The kitty rails. And Mel Gibson says, "What's with all this kitty stuff? Take the rails off." He convinces Dylan to take the rails down. And then this poor kid, this poor kid just throws gutter ball after gutter ball after gutter ball.
And some awful kid behind him goes, "This kid's about to get a perfect
little kid."
Yeah.
This kid points to him and goes, "This man has got 0." Point and laugh.
Laugh at this user.
Laugh at this bowler.
And then everyone in the bowling complex comes to watch this one bowling game.
They start taking bets on him.
Yeah.
There's some guy who's just like reaching over on the people taking the cash out
like
of
a
their
bookie. And a bookie at a bowling alley.
Then the kid's throwing tensions. He's giving up. He's ready to just throw himself.
Then we get a nice, very wholesome Mel Gibson moment.
Kurt Russell moment.
Yeah.
I guess his name is Kurt in the movie.
His name is Kurt, right?
Is that what's throwing you off?
I think so.
So we get a grandpa moment with Mel Gibson where he has the grandpa talk with Dylan, and he says, "Look, Dylan, don't be such a baby and don't be a woman and throw this bowling ball." And so Dylan, he goes for it, and the whole time we're also betting. Like, we're sitting here watching this movie, and we're like, okay, all right, is it
gonna be a bait and switch, or is it gonna be he gets the strike and everyone cheers and goes crazy?
And it was a little bit of both.
It was kind of both, yeah.
They bait and switch the bait and switch. So the bait and switch is it's gonna go to a gutter ball, but then it curves back last second and he hits one pin. He knocks down one pin, and he gets so excited. It's such a wholesome moment for this kid.
And everyone else in the bowling alley got so hyped. It was great.
They were all so happy.
The bookie was happy. He made a ton of money.
He broke a ton of kneecaps.
So then they go like shopping or whatever. The wives go shopping while the kids go to Santa, like they go to talk to Santa. But Mel Gibson takes Dylan out to get coffee beforehand. He hits on the barista at Starbucks, and then they get in line for Santa. In line for Santa, Dylan asks for a shotgun because presumably Mel Gibson told him to ask for that while they were at Starbucks.
Right. Yeah. It showed like Mel Gibson whispering the 20 gauge shotgun.
Yeah. Then Dylan backs out and says he doesn't want a shotgun. And then Mark Wahlberg's daughter hops up in Santa's lap, and she does want a shotgun. And she makes it very clear that is what she wants. And she
says, and I quote, "I will take one shotgun, please."
I would like your finest katana, please.
So that happens. We cut to the wives shopping, Christmas shopping, and Mark Wahlberg's wife starts shoplifting, tries to convince what's her name? Velma from Scooby-Doo to shoplift, who is
Barton's wife.
Right, correct. The mother of Mark Wahlberg's children. And she won't do it, and it's a whole thing. It doesn't really pay off. That part of her character does not get resolved.
I think that was just like building tension between them two to show they don't like each other.
Right, because Velma doesn't like Marky Mark's new daughter because she's kind of like misbehaved and keeps on turning the thermostat up and doesn't listen to anyone, and also is an awful person.
She's just like a spoiled rich girl,
and she's also an alcoholic.
She's also
right. Well, I mean, who at 9 years old isn't?
Right. If I was Marky Mark's daughter, I'd probably be an alcoholic too.
If I was John Cena's daughter.
Yeah, well, now she's Marky Marks. And then that scene leads to the security guard just threatening a woman.
Right?
Yeah, so she comes up and Velma thinks it's going to be the security guard telling her not to shoplift, but in reality he's just like, "Hey, is this lady bothering you?" And it was pretty funny, I think. So they go hunting together. The whole family goes hunting together. And this little girl, this is where she becomes my favorite character of the movie because she's just playing Mel Gibson, but she's a 9-year-old girl. And she's just ready to shoot this turkey. I mean, she's got the gun ready. She tells Mel Gibson to shut up. She aims the gun at this turkey. It starts running at her, but Will Ferrell and John Lithgow try to distract her by naming the turkey so she can't kill it. Turkey hits the little girl. Little girl shoots Mel Gibson in the arm. And then everybody's like freaking out. And then this girl just goes and lays out 2 turkeys in a row.
She also proceeds to point the gun directly at Mel Gibson's face, which I thought was funny, I think.
And she shoots both of these turkeys, and Mel Gibson turns and he says, "Man, maybe getting shot was worth it." Or something. And it's an incredible scene. I love this movie. I love this movie so much. Then they go to the hospital because Mel Gibson got shot. And Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson get into a little tussly
like
match.
a little bear fight.
Yeah, and then this is where the plot point of, are Mel Gibson and Mark Wahlberg gonna tell each other that they love each other?
Which did they?
No,
No,
they did
no,
not.
There was a lot of build up to it, but yeah, I guess they didn't.
They decided not. They decided to leave.
They expressed that physically.
Uh-huh.
They're saving that one for Daddy's Home 3.
So they leave the hospital, and then the dads are like, "We need a dad's night out." And so all of the dads go to improv, and a good time is had by all for a moment. Don goes on stage because Will Ferrell tells him to. Mel Gibson goes to sleep with a woman and leaves. And then Mark Wahlberg, because he's sad that his dad isn't there, yells out to John Lithgow, "Do one on divorce."
Because it had set up John Lithgow getting divorced or having marital troubles,
Right.
and then kind of brushed over it.
So John Lithgow finally admits to his divorce in improv, makes Will Ferrell sad, and he's also angry at his father.
It was a fun little bit. Everyone thinking that was all still improv. I liked that bit.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I hate improv.
It's the worst. Mark Wahlberg and John Lithgow get into an argument about it. About him bringing it up. John Lithgow takes a whole bottle of rum to his bedroom.
Yeah.
From the bowl of eggnog, because this is a Christmas movie. And then the little girls come in to drink the eggnog. See, you'll notice the beginning part that went by pretty quickly, that was the first act of the movie. The second and third act of this movie, a whole lot more happens. So the two daughters, who are both like 9 and 10 years old, get drunk on eggnog.
They get white girl wasted.
They get white girl
on Christmas Eve.
Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell get into another argument about that because, or get into an argument because Will Ferrell invited John Cena to Christmas because he was mad at Will Ferrell for bringing up his dad's divorce, which I feel like you would either be mad at your dad or mad at Marky Mark, but Will Ferrell's mad at both of them, which I get it. Emotions are high. His parents are divorced.
Right.
So John Cena shows up to Christmas, and they all go and are in a nativity scene together, like a live action nativity on Christmas Eve. And it's
not like a play. It's just they just stand there.
nativity. Yeah, no,
that's
I think
a
that's
thing.
a thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is it's
I thought it was another quirky Will Ferrellism.
No, this is a real thing.
real life thing.
And it's the only thing that Mel Gibson takes seriously, which is funny. Like
He's just like I want a bit of respect for the nativity.
Yeah.
Which again makes me think that Mel Gibson was not playing a character in this and was just himself.
Yeah.
That must have been the most tense day on set.
It's just that is funny to me, given Mel Gibson directed Passion of the Christ,
Right.
which makes it way
He-
funnier.
He was probably the one who was like, okay, we need a nativity scene in this. But Mel, I mean, this is more of a Christmas movie. They're just gonna spend time together and have fun. We need a nativity scene.
And I want Jesus to be brutally, brutally murdered.
I want to show the whipping and everything.
I want to make it the most gruesome movie you've ever seen. No, this is the birth of Christ, Mel Gibson. I don't care.
But Jesus is just a child, Mel. Maybe we need to turn it down. I don't care. He lived the high life of hardship. We need to show it.
So then arguments break out during the nativity. Mel Gibson gets mad because they're in the nativity, and he says, "Let's take this outside of the nativity scene." But they're all still in their nativity clothes.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a physical fight.
They walk like 3 seconds away.
Right.
Like they're about to like duke it out, physical fight. And
Yeah,
then
they was pushing, they was shoving.
and then it just turns into a snowball fight, which is funny, and I like that. And Mark Wahlberg hits John Lithgow with a snowball, and he falls over dead. And then they pick him up. And
John Lithgow gets multiple concussions in this movie.
which that'll come back at the end when I give my fan theory about this movie. Will Ferrell makes an ice ball to throw at Mark Wahlberg, and Mark Wahlberg says, "Hey, if you throw that ice ball, we're no longer co-dads. Like you can, like we'll just be a normal divorced family like everybody else." And then Will Ferrell throws it at Mark Wahlberg and hits his dad again right after they've gotten him up. So he dies twice.
This is the fifth time that he dies in the course of the movie.
Yeah.
And so the perfect divorced family, they break up and they all go their separate ways on Christmas Day. They pack up their presents, they hop in their cars.
I do like the little bit that they have while they're fighting, where they're like, "I'm going to still respect you because it's the right thing to do for my kids, but behind the scenes, I'm going to hate you."
Yeah. I liked that. That was funny,
awesome.
I think. Yeah. So as they're leaving, it gets real snowy and an avalanche happens, and John Lithgow, because he's got a concussion, says, "Do you think the snow caused the avalanche?" And then the park ranger's like, "Yeah. I think the snow probably had something to do with it." And it was pretty funny. It made me laugh. So then
this is about when the movie just goes completely off the rails.
This is when the movie
it was
loses it.
teetering off the rails. Like it was hanging on by a thread. This point, the thread is burnt to a crisp.
This is when the movie becomes the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life.
This movie, the first 2 acts of this movie are pretty standard Bob comedy. Like
Right.
you know,
it's a fun little comedic Christmas family movie. And then you get to this part,
you see this, and it ruins
and
your
everything
perspective.
changes.
It ruins your perceptions of how films should work.
Everything changes after Daddy's home too. So they go
To quote a great man, it's like a roller coaster ride into your own grave.
It's a slow, steady descent into madness. So they go, and the only place that's open on Christmas for them to get warm and eat while the roads are closed is a movie theater. And everybody in this town is going to this movie theater. They're all going to see movies. Every movie is booked except for a Liam Neeson movie where it's a dad comedy, but he's also a tank driver.
It's mistletoe.
Yes.
And so that's the movie they wind up going to see. And Mark Wahlberg and his family and John Cena and their family are also all three families are in this one movie, and they're all in the front row watching this movie. John Lithgow once again starts talking about the snow, and Will Ferrell snaps on him
Because he's got a concussion. And he's
Will Ferrell abuses his elderly father with a brain injury.
And I'm pretty sure it's Liam Neeson's actual voice, and he says something along the lines of like, something about dads and how being a father involves, doing things that you don't like and yada, yada, yada. And Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg glare at each other like we should make up, and then they don't really at the moment.
I looked it up, by the way,
Then
and it genuinely is Liam Neeson as an unvoiced, uncredited cameo.
good for him.
Yeah.
That's better than most of the roles he's been in recently.
So they they get out of the movie, and Dylan sees the girl next door, and everybody's starting to make up. So they're all talking to each other because they're all there, and he sees the girl who he had a crush on, and Mel Gibson's like, "Hey, go kiss that girl. Remember what I taught you, go kiss the girl." And Dylan's finally like, "Yes, I'm gonna do it." And he starts running towards this girl to kiss her. He's about to get some.
It's a big setup. His sister and stepsister are holding mistletoe over her head. She wants him so bad.
She does. She wants this guy so
all
bad.
of the parents are like looking at it, like they're like, I can't wait for
Velma's rushing to get her phone.
She beats up Will Ferrell to steal his phone.
I mean, every single person in this movie theater is staring at this kid, and he just runs up and he kisses John Cena's daughter, who is his stepsister. And
and then they show the reactions of everyone, and everyone's just horrified, except for Mel Gibson, who's
just
really into
cheering.
this.
he's so happy about it.
And then he sexually assaults her. Not Mel Gibson, the child.
he slaps her on the butt because that's what Mel Gibson told him to do with the ladies.
Oh, he says something too.
He's like, yeah, he's like,
He
Get
was
He's
some.
like, I'll
Then.
I'll
that-
call you later, baby doll, or something.
Yeah, he calls her baby doll, smacks her on the butt. Wow.
I love this movie.
So that happens, and then I'm struggling to follow. Marky Mark and Mel Gibson have like this sort of heartfelt moment. Will Ferrell starts singing as John Cena here's what it is. John Cena gets mad.
Well, yeah, John Cena tries to take his daughter away from these weird incestuous freaks.
But John Cena does the same thing.
John Cena is
and
the
goes-
most sane person in this movie.
and he goes, "No, I'm leaving."
Yeah,
And yet,
Mark Wahlberg tries to convince him to
he was
stay,
on. He says he was on Ice Road Truckers season 3.
which is the best.
I don't know why I remember that. Right?
You remembered the season. That's pretty impressive. And so they start talking, and Mel Gibson tells Mark Wahlberg to bring the hammer down on his stepdaughter, and he just looks at her like he's about to. He's really mad. He says, "Listen here, young lady, I love you," and she's just absolutely shocked. And then Mark Wahlberg just starts telling everybody that he loves them, including John Cena. And John Cena's just like happy to be part of the family. And then he looks over at Mel Gibson and he's like, "Now we'll get there one day. Not right now."
Maybe next time. Maybe in Daddy's Home 3.
maybe a
Daddy's Home
birthday.
3. Sully, Daddy's Home 3.
He said maybe a birthday. You know,
Right.
And then Will Ferrell starts singing. Mark Wahlberg starts
Yeah,
singing.
he sings the song that was set up earlier that Marky Mark hated because his dad was macking on young women.
Yes. And his dad is still macking on young women while Mark Wahlberg is singing it this time, but this time he's listening and he gives him a thumbs up and a smile. John Cena comes up. John Cena can't sing to save his life. Everyone is happy. And then they all go home and they go to drop their dads off at the airport. But Will Ferrell's mom is coming for New Year's. Mel Gibson and John Lithgow decide to go to Vegas to pick up women.
They become best friends.
They become.
I
best
can't wait. I
friends.
can't wait for the granddaddy's home.
I would love that. A spinoff where it's just the two of them trying to pick up Mel Gibson and John Lithgow picking up women in Vegas would be the most incredible movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I just want it. I want it so bad.
That movie would make $1 Mel Gibsillion.
So then Will Ferrell's mom shows up with her new boyfriend.
Yes, and we were all like trying to guess who was going to be the new step grandpa.
I was thinking Harrison Ford.
Right. I think I said that it would be John Cena's dad.
None
Like
of
his
us.
character's
None
dad.
of us could have.
None of us were
possibly known.
right. None of us could have guessed how great of a reveal it was.
Because it was Sully Sullenberger, the man who landed his plane in the Hudson River.
It was just straight up actually him.
It wasn't Tom Hanks playing him.
We were like, at first we were like, oh, it's just some random dude.
It's just some old guy.
And then Mark's like, isn't that Sully? and instead of Will Ferrell, he goes to embrace his new father as his kids have him, and he runs away screaming, "You're not my dad, and you can't replace him."
Right. And
Throws
he
some
grabs
poor
some
woman's
random
luggage.
person's luggage.
Throws it away, and Mark Wahlberg's like, "No, he's a really nice guy."
Because he wants to be friends with Sully Sullenberger.
Right.
And that's how the movie ends.
Yeah.
And we watched it, and when it ended, we stood up and we collectively clapped.
Yeah.
And how incredible.
Tears of joy.
I mean, basically, from the time they get to the movie, really, honestly, from like the Santa shotgun scene on, really from the bowling alley on, this movie is incredible. Like every single thing that happens was making us laugh. By the end of this, by the time we got to the movie theater, we were already on a laughing roll because, that's kind of how comedies have to work because not every joke is going to land, but if you hit them quick enough, people get rolling and then they laugh at everything. And we were already on that by the time we got to the movie theater, but then the movie theater just jumped the shark and it was so funny. Like every single thing was just like making me belly laugh. And then at the end when Sully's there, like nothing could have prepared me for this movie.
When Marky Mark and his dad kissed on the lips, we cheered.
Yeah, no, that is a thing that happened that we forgot to mention.
We did forget
and
to mention
Josh predicted that. Like as soon as Will Ferrell and John Lithgow kissed on the lips, he said that's going to happen at the end of the movie. Marky Mark is going to kiss his dad like that.
And Mel Gibson's like response to it was also funny. He was like, "I think that's something you have to kind of do from a young age. I think we missed the window of time to do that."
He's right,
He is.
I genuinely wanted Daddy's Home 3 of more Mel Gibson. Like
same.
Either that or a spin-off with him and John Lithgow in Vegas trying to pick up women. I just want a Mel Gibson movie like this again, where he's not a horrible person. Like, I can forget that he is a horrible person in real life.
Where he's playing a horrible person, but a funny version of
funny
one.
horrible person.
Right.
Apparently, Marky Mark was like, "I want Liam Neeson for Daddy's Home 3." So
It will happen. I believe.
Inshallah, it will happen.
Who would Liam Neeson play?
Liam Neeson.
Oh, okay.
He plays Liam Neeson. He plays. So Marky Mark's mom also has a new boyfriend, and it's the step granddad's.
I don't think Marky Mark's mom is in the picture. I think that's a plot point from the first movie.
Probably.
Possibly. Maybe it's I don't know. I got nothing.
What they'll have to do, like the only way they can do a sequel with what they've set up is they have to wait about 10 to 15 years until the kid can become a father, and then you have the lineage continue. The Daddy's Home franchise.
Well, you know what they say about like divorced families. Like you're significantly more likely to get a divorce if your parents are divorced. So it's only a matter of time for those kids. Those kids are screwed. Like they're gonna get divorced for sure.
Well, I mean, one of them shot their grandfather, so they're clearly,
right.
One of them's Mel Gibson.
And also got drunk on Christmas
Eggnog.
Eve at a nativity scene.
Also, we didn't even mention that at the nativity scene, Will Ferrell just forgets he has another child and leaves him there.
He tries to leave his baby, and Mel Gibson's like, "Hey, that's your kid, right?" And he's like, "Thank you."
Oh, Mel Gibson and his son Boxer, like they fight in a hospital. It's so great.
Yeah.
I love this movie.
God bless this movie.
All right, fan theory time. Because it ties into the movie we watched 3 weeks ago, which was Planet of the Apes. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's a pretty good one. So, Mark
Kinda
Wahlberg's
mid.
Planet of the Apes. One of the things we talked about in that was we talked about how that movie could possibly take place in the same universe as given Josh's theory that it's a separate monkey like it's a separate monkey planet. That movie could take place.
I still resent that.
Same. That movie could take place.
We've moved from that. Okay, we've moved on to Item's theory. That's an alternate universe.
I haven't moved on.
So-
I'll never move on.
So, with that in mind, I was like, well, I guess theoretically it could take place in the new batch of Planet of the Apes in that universe too. And when he goes back to Earth, it's just that Planet of the Apes because he travels through time. Mark Wahlberg's father in this movie was an astronaut, and he was a spaceman who worked with chimps. So, now that they've reconnected and Mark Wahlberg doesn't resent his father, I think he probably goes into the space program because he wants to become an astronaut, and he does, and he works with chimps. And he is the same character from the Mark Wahlberg, Tim Burton Planet of the Apes movie. John Lithgow, in this movie, after suffering multiple concussions and then getting really, 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 really wasted in Vegas on hookers, becomes his character from Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And I don't know how James Franco plays into all of it, his son. I don't know. Maybe Dusty is James Franco.
James Franco is not actually John Lithgow's son. He's just his carer. But because John Lithgow
there's a caretaker in that movie.
Yeah, no, but
he is his son in the movie.
Nah, he just swaps them around.
Or
He arrives
or
as the other caretaker leaves.
Or it's a son's home situation.
Well, I was thinking, like I was thinking about it. What if Daddy's Home 3 is the two dads accidentally become new fathers? Like, John Lithgow remarries, so he has a new stepson, and then Mel Gibson accidentally knocks a girl up, so he becomes a new dad, and it branches off into new.
We're talking about Josh. We're talking about Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, come on, man. Stay focused.
I figured it out. Because you know how they set up in this movie that Will Ferrell and his dad, they don't like to share like sad moments with each other. That's why he waited 6 months to tell him he got divorced, all of those things. So since Will Ferrell couldn't move there to take care of his dad because he's got two families to watch out for, he hires James Franco to play him. And James Franco is pretending to be his son and develops an actual relationship with him. He's pretending to be his son so that he can,
So that Will Ferrell doesn't have to.
Right, so that Will Ferrell can stay with his family. And then all of the Planet of the Apes happen while Mark Wahlberg from this movie is in space and everyone dies. So yeah, and then when he comes back. So this movie is basically a prequel to both the Planet of the Apes remake and the Planet of the Apes prequel series is what we're getting at.
Yeah, essentially.
And I stand by it. You can't convince me otherwise.
I don't think very many people would dispute that.
There's too much evidence to support it. This is a classic Planet of the Apes reunion episode. So many players in the Planet of the Apes franchise. Was Mel Gibson in any Planet of the Apes movies?
Probably.
Yeah,
He probably played one of the apes.
He played the evil monkey in Tim Burton's.
Right.
I'm Googling real quick.
I don't believe he's been in any Planet of the Apes, no.
Yeah, unless he was in one of the originals, which I doubt.
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
No.
I can
Gary
imagine
Oldman was
it,
in
it's just not true.
was in a Mel Gibson movie.
Say Gary Oldman without the R.
Worst mistake of my life.
Is Gary Oldman also anti-Jews?
No,
I just got down a Google rabbit hole. Apparently, Gary Oldman joined Mel Gibson's anti-Semitic movie called Run by Jews, and Gary Oldman was tabbed to be in it.
I don't think so. I think that was more Gary Oldman just does most movies that he can.
I don't think that's one you do. Regardless. Anyway, all right, back to the point. We're talking about we got a little distracted. Daddy's Home 2.
That is only two of the perfect. It's a perfect movie. That is all.
It is one of the movies of all time.
It's close to perfect.
It's certainly the best movie
You know?
we've watched so far. It's the only movie we've all been into.
Right?
Like it's just
There are no words.
it's so out there, and it's so off the rails during the third act of this movie that it's really hard not to get sucked into it. And if you go into this with a mindset of like, this movie's bad, it's gonna blow you out of the water. And especially if you watch Max Payne and Planet of the Apes 2 weeks leading up to it, this is the greatest movie of all time.
Absolutely.
Because
this movie's weirdly heartfelt.
yeah,
no, it's incredibly heartfelt.
I just
Like
it's great.
it's heartwarming, genuinely heartwarming, and
This movie made me feel things. You remember feelings?
I haven't had those since I was like 14 years old.
I remember watching a movie and having it make you feel something.
Apparently, I was just down the Google rabbit hole. Apparently, this movie directly led to the making of Father Stew, Mark Wahlberg's newest movie that's apparently really good, but I still haven't seen.
Father Stew is in the Daddy's Home universe.
So Mel Gibson and Mark Wahlberg connecting in this movie. Mel Gibson told Mark Wahlberg about the story of Father Stew, which led Mark Wahlberg to get the movie made. And he consulted the son of or Stu's dad, father of Father Stew, consulted his dad and Mel Gibson. Those were the first two people they consulted for this character. Interesting. Fascinating. Look at that. No, watch this movie. This is the first one I've said it about.
No, genuinely, watch this movie.
Watch this movie. I mean, I'm being serious. It's the only one so far that I'm like, yeah, no, people should watch this.
This was a fun ride. I had a nice time watching it, which is
I don't think there was a single scene in this movie that I didn't enjoy.
Exactly.
Whereas with most of the movies we watch, there's maybe a single scene that I do enjoy.
This is the last time you will ever hear us talk positively about a movie for a very long time.
I will say the slapsticky stuff I'm not a huge fan of, but it was fine because they didn't really overdo it. That's kind of Will Ferrell's shtick, and I don't love it. I was a huge fan.
And I liked it more in this than I expected to.
This movie was no like Anchorman 2. It wasn't that over the top with it.
It also it wasn't like too out there. Like most of the slapstick is just Will Ferrell falls down or a man walks into something.
John Lithgow gets nailed with an ice ball and Mel Gibson gets shot.
John Lithgow gets shot. But
they dropped a snowblower on a car.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're like, it's not too out there, but they drop a snowblower.
I'm thinking like
it's like a 10-minute long scene of him just flying around on a snowblower that was sucking up Christmas lights.
No, the special effects were pretty solid.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm thinking like
even like all the stunt stuff was pretty great too.
Oh yeah. It's all pretty like it's not. This is the first time I've seen a movie for this show, and I haven't thought this is probably some kind of fraud behind the scenes, like some money laundering.
Right. This. It's weird that Daddy's Home 2 is the movie we watched that feels like a real movie,
and even visually, right? So we're watching this, and I'm thinking the whole time, like, man, this movie is like
this movie looks like a movie,
like. I don't know if it was shot on film or not. I would assume not because it was 2016 and it's a Daddy's Home sequel.
I was gonna say this is Daddy's Home. I don't think they went that far.
This is Kino. All right, they shot on film.
It looks like film. This would be the first movie we watched that was shot on film since Phantom Menace. Planet of the Apes may have been shot on film, but Planet of the Apes was just ugly because that's the aesthetic they were going for. Max Payne was ugly. Not because that's the aesthetic they were going for. Attack of the Clones is ugly because it was the first feature-length film shot on digital, and they didn't know what they were doing at the time, and so they had to compensate for the colors, and they didn't know how to do it properly. Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Mid is kind of ugly for the same reason. Like, they still hadn't nailed it. This movie's gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning, and the snow it emits Christmas time in its visuals. I love this movie. This is my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, honestly,
Calling it favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, and then this would have been such a great movie to end on for Marky Mark week, but we got something else next week.
yeah. Unfortunately, we
Wonder
had
who's-
to end with a horrible, god awful segue.
Who
And I
whose idea
can
was
wait.
that? Whose idea was that?
Yeah, who came up with that one?
You guys blame me for this stuff so often.
Well, yeah, but this is my only one. To be fair, you've got like plans for the next 10 months.
Well, we
about
built
this.
out the plans together.
We just didn't. You just came up with them and gave them to us, and we said, "All right."
Well, and the sweep we're doing after Marky Mark sweep was Josh's idea.
I think that one was my idea, actually. I'll take credit for that.
Cool. So it's a group effort. All right, next week, everyone, we are watching The Happening to close out Marky Mark sweep. I'm not looking forward to it even a little bit.
I will say I'm looking forward to that more than I'm looking forard to the month after.
Yes, the entire month after will
The
be a
next
nightmare.
Sweep.
M
Nightmare.
I like that little hint there. That was a funny little thing that you just did. That was pretty funny, I think. All right, everybody, thanks
That
for
was
listening. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, please rate and review the podcast. It helps to get it out to other people. If you're watching on YouTube, you're one of like 2, so I appreciate you watching there. Episodes go up a week early on our streaming platforms. We'll see you on the very next episode of Semi-Pro. I really quickly just wanted to add, because we forgot to mention this in the discussion, this will not be on YouTube. This is just in the streaming. There is a scene at the end after Dylan kisses the girl that there's just a line of other women lined up to kiss him, and he's like he's getting some. I mean, this kid is getting it. He's getting it great. And then out of nowhere, out pops the head of this small Asian boy. And it's one of the funniest things I have ever seen in my life. I mean, it was so funny. It was so funny. And I just wasn't expecting it. And then the scene just ends, and he's just, I mean, it was great. Thanks for listening. Again, we'll see you on the next episode of Semi-Pro.